So we need to talk about a film. Not a movie, a film. And it was the number one trending film on Netflix. And my partner and I, we saw this movie and thought, what the hell is this? um, and I mean, guys, I want you all to bask in the glory that is the poster for this. Hot Frosty. It took a snowman to melt her heart. It is, yes, it is a Hallmark style movie, but it's a Hallmark style movie about a snowman that is granted sentience and then inadvertently seduces a woman. Yeah, they himbofied Frosty the Snowman. I look, don't WTF me, okay? This is on Netflix. They put out and produced this film, and it became number one on Netflix. So it's also on all of you who watch Netflix. Do you want to fuck a snowman? No, no. But fun fact: the snowman weirdly seems to have like modified Chad jaw that I do not think is this actor's actual jawline. Like I know he has like I know he has a very defined jaw, but it doesn't like bulge out like this, as far as I can tell. And Dustin Milligan is Hot Frosty. And you might also recognize him as the veterinarian from Schitt's Creek. Um And I just have to say, this is frankly kind of a cute movie because going in, of course, my partner and I had some ethical conundrums we needed to unravel over the course of the runtime of this film, which is, number one, how aware is Hot Frosty of like sexual dynamics? What is Hot Frosty's rule? What are the rules? What are the mystical uh, laws that bind him to this mortal plane, you know? And well, we don't really get any hard or fast rules except that he needs to maintain a body temperature below freezing, otherwise he will start to die. And additionally, he also seems to require the prominently featured red scarf. Um, and was the snowman built anatomically correct to begin with? That is a question that is left unanswered by the movie because he begins with his legs encased in snow. But when he like comes alive, like the snow breaks away and he has fully formed legs underneath. So my question is, I don't necessarily trust that he wasn't sculpted and after the fact the town, for like, you know, uh for not wanting a nude hot snowman in the center of town covered him with snow. Um Also, just to be clear, Lacey Chabert, Chabert. I don't know how to say her last name. She's she's not very good in this movie. But look, Dustin Milligan acts his heart out, and you know what? He goddamn sells himself as a charming and naive hot snowman who's come to life. Okay. Look, I don't make the rules, but it's a cute movie, and I I I guess I'll just kind of go through it to the best of my ability to recall chronologically, which is essentially Lacey's. I'm just gonna call them by their actor names, except for Hot Frosty. He's just Hot Frosty. Um, How problematic was it that Mr. Freeze cryogenically froze his wife until he found a cure to save her from a rare terminal disease? I mean, it depends on whether it was consensual or not, I guess. But she has a dead husband who died from cancer. And she goes to, she's going about her business in this small rural town and winds up, for whatever reason, I forget why, going into this local thrift store where I think her parents work. Like, they own the thrift store. And it's kind of implied by the setup that um, the parents have this magical scarf that brings lovers together. And they give it to her so that she can find herself a lover. And they also tell their story about how, like, it helped to bring them together. But I do have a question, and that is, the movie's a bit vague on this point. Is that other man a snowman? Is her dad a snowman? How many of the other people in this town are snowmen? We never get answers to that. And perhaps more horrifically, we also don't get any answers to what would happen if you put this magical scarf on, like, a normal snowman. Because, to be clear, Hot Frosty is sculpted like this man's body. Like, it's not like this man steps out, like, all Kool-Aid Man style out of a snowman. No, 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 no. Someone in town, and we never learn any details about who sculpted him or why they decided to make a hot snowman, but he's already sculpted like this. And so my question is, if they throw this magic scarf on a normal looking snowman, would that have summoned, like, some kind of freakish flesh beast to our realm? Like, if it just brings alive a snowman as is, but with flesh underneath, what kind of horrors does that mean could exist in this world? Like, I like a good snowman. I like a good classic snowman. I think they're cute. Um, but I would think that they are much less cute if they were, like, flesh orbs stacked on top of each other. That would not be very cute. That would actually be quite grotesque, and perhaps a good premise for a Blumhouse film. But I digress. Now, he comes alive in the middle of the night after she puts on this scarf on him because she notices all of the other snowmen have scarves, but he doesn't. And he's naked, so he must be cold. So she puts this scarf on him and then takes a photograph of him, and then she sees a magical glint in his eye, and she just goes, well, that was weird, I'm going home. And in the middle of the night, Hot Frosty comes alive. And he then proceeds to wander around the town naked, because he's a snowman and wasn't made with clothes, and throws himself through the window of the thrift store, where he then steals the pair of overalls he's wearing in this poster that happen to have the name Jack on them. And that's how he gets his name. So he's wandering around and people are like, what's your name? And he's like, they're like, I don't know. And they're like, well, is your name Jack? That's what's on your uniform. He's like, I guess it must be. I'm Jack. So that's a whole thing. But then he seeks her out because apparently the first thing that he remembers is this lady taking a photograph of him. And luckily her heater in her house is broken, so it is constantly below freezing and he's totally fine inside of her house. Okay? I don't remember the context of why I said hot frosty comes. Anyway, we then kind of like see her decide, yeah, you whatever, you can stay with me for a few days, because she thinks that this man is like an amnesiac who needs help. Like she takes him to the doctor, and that's when they find out that he starts dying if he gets too hot. And so he stays home while she goes to like work or something, and discovers that she had a husband who died of cancer, but he doesn't know what cancer is and has no concept of death because he's a snowman. And also, he learns everything by watching the television. And so when she comes home, he's figured out how to work the oven and has made her pizzas because he saw someone do it on TV, and he learned that he hates the oven because it makes things hot. And he put a sticky note on it that reminds him that it's hot, that says hot. And I have so many more questions. Does he have he has like some clear inbuilt knowledge, but the extent of it is very confusing, right? Like, he knows how to read and he knows how to write. And at no point did anyone teach him how to do those things. And it was at this point that my partner and I looked at each other and were like, is this like the flip side of this? Is he just learning so quickly that he's soon going to like surpass mortal knowledge? Like he's learned how to move. He's already done a robbery. He knows how to read and write now. He's learned how to make a perfect personal pan pizza in the span of like a day, when he started out that day not knowing what an oven was. And like, you know, by the end of the movie, we still have no answers because the movie takes place over the span of like 3 days. Hey, Lid, thank you so much for the raid. Also, hey, Mad Aladdin, how you doing? But so we have all of this going on, but maybe one of the weirdest scenes in the movie happens, right? About halfway through. And that is, Hot Frosty learns about home improvement from watching television. And so he decides to fix all of the broken things around her house, because that's what people do when they love each other. You know, you try and help each other. And so he goes off shirtless in the wintertime, of course, and starts doing like home repairs, like fixing her windows, fixing her creaky stairs, you know, fixing everything in the house, the lights, etc. And as he's doing that, a hot old lady is driving by and sees him, gets distracted by how hot he is in the wintertime, being shirtless and such, and drives her car into a snowbank. At which point he sees this happen. Oh, and I left out a really important part of the movie, which is the local police, the head of which is played by Daryl from The Office, and his second in command is like, he plays Boyle from from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, if any of you know that show. But they are in the movie, and they're delightful. And but Daryl's character starts investigating the robbery, and he's like a Javert type, where he just cannot let any breach of the law go. And so Hot Frosty, the entire movie, is a wanted man. He has done a crime, and everyone in his life is afraid that he's going to get arrested for stealing this pair of overalls. And the police have nothing better to do than hunt him down. So he's not supposed to talk to anyone because he's supposed to be laying low at her house. Yeah, the fugitive, if it was hot and frosty. So he then goes, disregards Lacey Chabert's orders to lay low and goes to help this woman out of a snowbank. At which point, there ensues like a simulated sex act between him and this old woman who's sexy. Um, and like she's like, "Oh yeah, you can try and push and pull me out of it." And then it's filmed like he's thrusting into her. It's a weird scene that was pretty funny, admittedly. And she seemed like Hot Frosty, totally oblivious to the dynamics of this, but sexy old lady is very satisfied with Hot Frosty's performance and invites him to come to her house to fix things. And she says it in a really flirty way, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I would love to help you." And so he winds up going to her house, where instead of like being like sexually assaulted by this old lady, which is where I thought it was going, instead, there's like an old ladies book club meeting at her house, and they're just all like staring respectfully at him as he changes a light fixture. It was actually like a lot of the potholes I thought this movie would stumble into. It managed to avoid, sometimes in kind of a clunky way, but yeah, it wound up being like surprisingly charming. Um, and he then gets a job repairing things at the local middle school because one of the old ladies works there. And so he gets a job, and it really, at least Hot Frosty didn't get sexually assaulted. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought that might be where it's going. Like, these movies aren't very tactful. And anyway, Lacey gets really mad at Hot Frosty for getting a job because he's supposed to be laying low from the law. And but Hot Frosty's like, but I need to help people. And then the cop, played by Daryl from The Office, shows up at the diner in town. And of course, Hot Frosty, when he's at the diner, eats ice cubes in order to stay cool. It seems to be the only thing he eats, which begs another question. Does Hot Frosty have some kind of digestive system? Like, or is it magic? Because clearly his body operates on different rules, but does he have some kind of like ice digestive system? How does the ice get incorporated into his body? By what mechanism? I have so many questions. But anyway, Hot Frosty and the cop who is hunting him, he doesn't know that he's hunting Hot Frosty yet. He just thinks he's a nice-looking young man. But they sit across from each other and eat handfuls of ice like they're trying to one up each other. It's actually a really funny scene that I would recommend. And yeah, it is a wild movie that ends, of course, on Christmas. And when Christmas rolls around, essentially the cop figures out that Hot Frosty is the criminal and arrests Hot Frosty on Christmas. Which is a problem because he doesn't believe that Hot Frosty is a snowman. And so he brings Hot Frosty to the humanely heated jail for this small rural town. And Hot Frosty begins to die of heat. And there's definitely a little bit of commentary going on about jail conditions and how we treat criminals, etc. But I digress. The entire town then comes together to pay Hot Frosty's bail, which again, Hot Frosty would not be dying if his town had adopted a cashless bail system, which I think this movie is a great example of why we should have that, because you shouldn't be relying on an entire town coming together to raise an arbitrary amount of money set by your local sheriff who's set on being an asshole. So the entire town comes together. Miracle. Wait, what's it called? Not Miracle on 34th Street. That's a different movie. Um, Not A Christmas Story. God, what's the name of it? The one where he wishes to stop existing. Oh, Zazu's Petals. What is that one? It's a Wonderful Life. Thank you. It's a Wonderful Lifestyle. The entire town comes together to bail Hot Frosty out of jail, and different people contributing different amounts of money. And the meanwhile, Daryl from The Office is standing there like, what? I am the person who arbitrarily set the bail. I haven't even done paperwork for it. I'm just gonna leave him in jail for the next 2 days while I take Christmas Eve off, or Christmas Day off. And then the town raises the $2,000 it will cost to bail Hot Frosty out of jail. And then he's like, whatever, I'll just let him out. And so the entire point of the town coming together to raise money for Hot Frosty's bail is completely obliterated, because it turns out the cop didn't even need to actually get the bail money. It is a weird movie, and then Hot Frosty dies. He dies in jail. Hot Frosty was not necessarily saved by the town's intervention. He dies. And then, like Jesus Christ, he resurrects into a new and perfected form, i.e., he then comes back to life because Lacey Chabert smooches him. He comes back to life through the power of love, and he's just a normal human man now. Hot Frosty dies and is reborn, like Gandalf the Grey becoming Gandalf the White. The Passion of the Frost. It is a film that I can honestly say would probably be best viewed while drinking with your loved ones or friends, or with a little bit of that good bud. It is a film that honestly, yeah, Hot Frosty didn't wait for 3 days. It's true. But there is a line in this movie that goes, I can't defibrillate a snowman. And I think that you owe it to yourselves to maybe see this movie. No. See, so Ren, The Room is a bad movie that was made sincerely. And I don't know if Hot Frosty is that. I think it was a cynical movie that the people attached to it thought was silly enough that they gave it more effort than a Hallmark movie would traditionally get, and it comes out actually pretty fun. It comes out pretty fun. I know what my partner and I are doing tonight. I can't say it's a good movie by like any metric, but I'm extremely glad that I watched it with my partner. Is it better than Love on a Leash? I have no idea what that is. Yeah, so Hot Frosty by the end of the movie is no longer Hot Frosty. He's just a guy. I made your stacked flesh orbs. I do not want to see that. Oh god. Thanks, I hate it. Now imagine it has eyes. And I do have questions, okay? if like a stacked flesh orb, if that scarf does in fact bring snowmen to life, would like if you gave it like a carrot nose or coal eyes, would those also become real in some way, or would they fall out of like the flesh? I genuinely it keeps me up at night. um Good golly. Anyway, that's Hot Frosty, and I do recommend it because it is baffling on so many levels. And I will say that compared to every other like schlock Christmas movie that's coming out this season, this is probably going to be the best one. The runner-up is a movie called The Merry Gentleman or something like that, which is about a lady who turns her parents' like shitty rural bar into a strip club for men, which sounds a lot more fun than what actually happens in the movie. That movie sounds good on paper, doesn't really translate as much. Is this a man? Yeah, magic less Mike, exactly. You got it. Also, my partner and I we started watching this Christmas one. Oh no, sorry. We wanted to watch this Christmas Magic Mike situation. We were like, well, we never actually saw Magic Mike. And so we watched the first 10 minutes of Magic Mike, and the first 10 minutes of Magic Mike are legitimately depressing as hell, which I was not expecting. I was not expecting that movie to be so sad. So, we didn't finish the rest of it because we needed good vibes. But we did stumble upon Hot Frosty, and I'm really grateful for that. Yeah. God. Anyway, yeah.